When Adam was 23, he believed life was supposed to be loud, fast, and full of obvious victories. Instead, he found himself in a quiet rented house on the edge of town, where the evenings were long and the walls carried stories older than he was. The house belonged to Mr. Kareem, a 65-year-old widower with silver hair, calm eyes, and the kind of steady voice that made even ordinary sentences sound important. Adam had moved in because the rent was affordable and the neighborhood peaceful, but he stayed because something about the old man's presence made the loneliness in his chest feel less sharp. At first, their conversations were simple: tea at 9, polite questions about work, stories about the weather. Yet even in those early days, Adam sensed that the silence between them was not empty, it was waiting. Waiting for courage, for confession, for something unnamed to grow roots. Mr. Kareem had lived a full life. He had raised children who now lived abroad, had lost a wife he still spoke of with respect, and had learned to accept solitude like an old companion. But when Adam arrived with his restless energy and shy smile, something stirred in him that he thought age had taken away forever. He noticed the way Adam laughed too quickly when he was nervous, the way he stared at the sky as if it owed him answers. The difference of 42 years between them should have been a wall, solid and unbreakable. Society would say so. Family would certainly say so. Yet late at night, when they sat across from each other in the small courtyard, sipping tea under the dim yellow bulb, that age gap felt less like a wall and more like a bridge, one built from shared loneliness. It began to change on a rainy evening. Thunder rolled across the sky, and the electricity flickered before surrendering to darkness. Adam, uneasy with storms since childhood, stepped out of his room and found Mr. Kareem already in the hallway holding a candle. Their eyes met in the soft glow, and for a moment neither spoke. "You can sit in my room," the older man offered gently. "The windows there are smaller. The storm sounds softer." Adam nodded, feeling both embarrassed and grateful. They sat side by side on opposite ends of the bed, listening to rain strike the roof. The candlelight danced across Mr. Kareem's lined face, revealing not just age but tenderness. When another crack of thunder shook the walls, Adam's hand instinctively reached out. Instead of pulling away, Mr. Kareem covered it with his own. The touch was simple, warm, and steady, yet it changed everything. After that night, their conversations deepened. Adam spoke about his fears of failure, about feeling lost while friends seemed to be racing ahead in careers and relationships. Mr. Kareem listened without judgment, sharing stories of mistakes he had made in his youth, of chances taken too late and chances taken just in time. There was no flirtation at first, no grand confession, only understanding. But understanding can be more intimate than any bold declaration. Adam began to look forward to the evenings not just for company, but for the way Mr. Kareem's presence made him feel seen. And the older man, who had grown used to silent dinners and empty rooms, found himself waiting for the sound of Adam's footsteps in the hallway. The first time Adam realized his feelings had crossed into something more was startling. He had returned from work exhausted and frustrated after being mocked by coworkers for still renting a room instead of living independently. He expected sympathy, perhaps advice. Instead, when he saw Mr. Kareem reading quietly, he felt a sudden, overwhelming desire to protect him, from gossip, from judgment, from a world that would never understand. The emotion confused him. That night, he lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every shared glance, every brush of fingers when passing a cup. He told himself it was admiration, gratitude, maybe even misplaced affection. But his heartbeat disagreed. Mr. Kareem sensed the shift too. He was old enough to recognize the subtle language of closeness, the longer pauses, the way Adam's gaze lingered, the softness in his voice when saying goodnight. He wrestled with his own feelings, aware of the complications. He did not want to take advantage of youth or vulnerability. He did not want to be the reason Adam faced ridicule. Yet when Adam knocked on his door one evening and confessed, with trembling honesty, "I feel something for you that scares me," the older man felt tears rise uninvited. Instead of responding immediately, he asked, "Are you certain this isn't just comfort? I don't want to be a mistake you regret." Adam stepped closer, heart pounding. "You are the first place that has ever felt like home." Their relationship did not explode into passion. It unfolded carefully, like a letter written over months. They agreed to move slowly, to talk openly about doubts. They faced criticism from a neighbor who whispered about the unusual closeness. Adam's friends teased him without knowing the truth, and he found himself growing distant from them. Yet every challenge seemed to strengthen what they shared. Love, they discovered, was not about proving something to the world. It was about building something private and steady. They developed rituals, morning tea together, evening walks when the streets were quiet. Sometimes they would sit in silence, fingers intertwined, saying nothing because nothing needed to be said. One winter night, as cold air seeped through the windows, Adam moved from his bed to sit beside Mr. Kareem on the couch. "Do you ever wish we met earlier?" he asked softly. The older man smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Adam's forehead. "If we had met earlier, we might not have recognized what we have now. Age teaches you to value what is rare." Adam rested his head against his shoulder, listening to the slow, reassuring rhythm of his heartbeat. In that moment, the difference in years felt irrelevant. There was only warmth, breath, and the quiet certainty that love does not follow rules written by others. As months passed, their bond became the center of their lives. They chose honesty over secrecy, even when it meant facing uncomfortable questions. Some people walked away. Others surprised them with unexpected acceptance. Adam learned patience from Mr. Kareem. Mr. Kareem rediscovered excitement from Adam. They were not perfect. They argued about small things, about money, about future plans, about health concerns that loomed larger for one than the other. But even in anger, there was care. They never went to bed without resolving what hurt them. And slowly, the house that once echoed with loneliness transformed into a space alive with shared laughter. One evening, Adam set up his phone to record a simple video, just a candid conversation between them about unlikely love and courage. They spoke honestly, without dramatic music or staged romance. They talked about fear, judgment, and choosing happiness anyway. The video received only a few dozen views at first. 35, to be exact. Adam almost deleted it. But then someone shared it, moved by their sincerity. Within days, thousands were watching, commenting about hope and bravery. The video went viral not because of shock, but because of truth. People saw two human beings choosing connection over conformity. Years later, when time inevitably slowed Mr. Kareem's steps, Adam remained by his side with unwavering devotion. He no longer cared about whispers or statistics or expectations. He cared about the man who had once held his hand during a storm and made the darkness feel less frightening. And when Adam looked back at the moment everything began, the candlelight, the rain, the quiet touch, he understood that love does not measure itself in years lived, but in moments shared. In the end, what they had built was not defined by age or difference, but by courage. And courage, they both learned, is the most romantic thing of. The viral video changed the rhythm of their days in ways neither of them expected. At first, it felt unreal. 35 views had seemed insignificant, almost embarrassing, but the sincerity in their voices traveled further than they imagined. Messages began appearing from strangers across different countries, people confessing that they too had loved someone the world told them not to love. Adam would sit at the small wooden table in the kitchen, scrolling through comments with wide eyes, reading them aloud to Mr. Kareem. Some were full of warmth and gratitude. Others were sharp, questioning, even cruel. But what surprised them most was how little the negativity mattered compared to the overwhelming kindness. The house that had once been quiet now buzzed with digital echoes of people who felt seen because of them. With attention came responsibility. Adam suggested they record another video, not to chase fame but to answer the questions pouring in. "People think we're either foolish or brave," he said one evening. "Maybe we can show them we're just human." Mr. Kareem adjusted his glasses and smiled thoughtfully. "If we speak honestly. No performance." So they sat together again, this time more aware of the camera but no less sincere. They spoke about age difference, not as a fantasy, but as a reality with practical challenges. They discussed health, future uncertainty, and the importance of consent and clarity. The video reached even more people. It wasn't dramatic, it was grounded. And that grounded truth was rare. As their online presence grew, so did the complexity of their emotions. Adam sometimes felt overwhelmed. He was only 23, still discovering who he was. Suddenly, strangers were labeling him with words like inspiration and controversial. He worried about being reduced to a symbol instead of seen as a person. One night, after reading a particularly harsh comment accusing him of seeking money or security, he shut his phone off and sat silently in the dark. Mr. Kareem noticed immediately. Without asking for details, he simply sat beside him. "Public voices are loud," he said softly. "But the only voice that must be clear is your own. Why are you here?" Adam looked at him, eyes glistening. "Because I love you. Not because it's easy. Not because it's viral." The answer steadied them both. Outside the digital world, their real life continued with its ordinary beauty. They still argued about grocery lists and whether the living room needed repainting. Adam teased Mr. Kareem about his old-fashioned taste in music, while secretly growing fond of it. On weekends, they visited a nearby park where children played and elderly men discussed politics on benches. Sometimes people recognized them from the videos. A few approached cautiously, offering quiet words of support. Others stared from a distance. Adam learned to hold Mr. Kareem's hand without hesitation, not as a statement, but as a natural extension of affection. Each public gesture felt like reclaiming space they had once been afraid to occupy. There were moments of doubt too. One afternoon, Adam found himself imagining the future in sharp detail. Hospital rooms, medical reports, the inevitability of aging that would affect one of them far sooner. Fear tightened his chest. That evening he voiced it. "What if I'm not strong enough for what's coming?" he asked. Mr. Kareem did not dismiss the concern. Instead, he nodded. "Loving someone older means accepting time as a visible companion," he replied. "But loving anyone means accepting uncertainty. I cannot promise years. I can only promise sincerity." Adam realized then that love was not about securing forever, it was about honoring now. Their bond deepened through shared vulnerability. Mr. Kareem began opening up about his late wife in greater detail, not as a comparison but as part of his story. He described the guilt he initially felt for loving again. Adam listened without jealousy. Instead, he felt honored to be trusted with those memories. "You are not replacing anyone," Mr. Kareem assured him. "You are adding to my life in a way I never expected." That understanding erased invisible tension. Love did not erase the past, it coexisted with it. As months turned into a year, Adam's personal growth became undeniable. He pursued creative projects inspired by their journey, writing essays, filming short reflections about unconventional relationships, exploring themes of loneliness and courage. His voice matured. He was no longer the uncertain young man seeking validation. He became someone capable of offering it to others. Mr. Kareem watched with pride, occasionally offering gentle advice but never controlling direction. Their age difference transformed from a point of defense into a source of perspective. Youth brought movement, age brought depth. Not all reactions softened with time. Some family members from Mr. Kareem's side reached out with concern masked as criticism. They questioned Adam's intentions, worried about inheritance, reputation, tradition. The conversations were tense. Adam insisted on transparency. Legal documents were clarified to prevent suspicion. Boundaries were established respectfully but firmly. Through it all, Mr. Kareem stood beside him. "If my family cannot trust my judgment at 65, he told Adam afterward, then they do not know me as well as they think." It was a painful chapter, yet it strengthened their commitment to honesty. One quiet evening, long after the online excitement had stabilized into steady support, Adam asked a question that had lingered in his mind. "Do you ever regret letting this become public?" Mr. Kareem considered carefully. "Privacy is comfortable," he admitted. "But silence can also protect prejudice. If our openness helps even one person feel less alone, then it has value." Adam nodded, realizing that their story had grown beyond romance. It had become a conversation about dignity. Winter returned, marking nearly 2 years since that stormy night when everything shifted. The house felt warmer now, filled with shared photographs, small souvenirs from places they visited together, handwritten notes left on kitchen counters. Age showed itself in subtle ways. Mr. Kareem's slower pace, occasional fatigue, but affection adapted rather than faded. Adam became more attentive, learning how to care without making it feel like duty. He understood that love sometimes looked like medication reminders and doctor appointments, not just candlelit conversations. On the anniversary of their first video, Adam surprised Mr. Kareem with a simple gesture. He recreated that rainy night setting in their living room. Candles, soft lighting, the sound of recorded rain playing gently in the background. "You held my hand during a storm," Adam said quietly. "Tonight I just want to say thank you for every calm day since." Mr. Kareem's eyes shimmered with emotion. "You gave an old man the courage to feel young again," he replied. They embraced, not dramatically, but with the quiet certainty of two people who had chosen each other fully. Their love continued not as a headline, but as a daily practice. Viral moments faded, replaced by consistent presence. Adam no longer counted views. He counted shared breakfasts, shared laughter, shared silence. The world still had opinions, but those opinions existed outside the walls they built together. And within those walls, time moved gently. In the end, their story was never about shocking the world or chasing numbers. It was about two souls meeting at unexpected points on the timeline of life and deciding that connection mattered more than convention. The difference of 42 years remained a fact, but it no longer felt like a distance. It felt like texture, layers of experience woven together. And on quiet nights, when rain tapped softly against the roof, Adam would sometimes reach for Mr. Kareem's hand just as he had that first evening. The touch still carried warmth, still carried reassurance, still carried the unspoken promise that love, when chosen bravely, can transform even the smallest rented house into a place the heart calls home. Spring arrived softly that year, as if even the seasons respected the quiet tenderness inside their home. The garden behind the house, once neglected and dry, began to bloom again because Adam insisted on planting new flowers. Mr. Kareem would sit on a wooden chair, watching him kneel in the soil, sleeves rolled up, sunlight resting gently on his young face. "You're bringing life back to this place," the older man would say. Adam would smile and reply, "No, we are." And in that small exchange, there was romance, not loud or dramatic, but rooted, steady, growing the way flowers grow when given patience and care. Their love evolved into something softer yet deeper. The early uncertainty had transformed into comfort. Adam no longer felt the need to question his feelings. They had proven themselves through time and consistency. He found romance in simple gestures, the way Mr. Kareem adjusted his scarf before stepping outside, the way his laugh began quietly and then filled the room, the way he always saved the last piece of dessert for Adam without mentioning it. And Mr. Kareem found romance in youth rediscovered, late-night talks about dreams, spontaneous walks under the moonlight, the way Adam would pull him gently toward the couch just to sit close. One evening, Adam planned something special. He turned off all the lights in the house except for candles placed carefully along the hallway and living room. When Mr. Kareem stepped out of his room, surprised, Adam extended his hand. "May I have this dance?" he asked softly. There was no music at first, only the sound of their breathing and the faint noise of wind outside. Slowly, Adam began humming an old tune Mr. Kareem loved. They moved carefully, aware of age yet unconcerned by it. The dance was not perfect, their steps were uneven. But romance rarely lives in perfection. It lives in intention. And in that dimly lit room, intention was everywhere. As they swayed together, Mr. Kareem rested his forehead lightly against Adam's. "You make me forget numbers," he whispered. Adam understood. Numbers had once defined them, 23 and 65, 42 years apart. But now those numbers felt distant, irrelevant compared to the warmth between them. Adam tightened his arms slightly, protective yet gentle. "I don't see numbers when I look at you," he replied. "I see the man who makes my heart calm." That calmness was their greatest romance, two different timelines aligning in one shared heartbeat. Their intimacy deepened gradually, always built on communication and respect. They learned each other's rhythms, the moments when closeness was desired and when space was needed. Adam discovered how sensitive Mr. Kareem was beneath his composed exterior. A simple kiss on the forehead before sleep could carry more emotion than grand declarations. And when Mr. Kareem traced his fingers along Adam's cheek, it was never rushed, it was reverent, as though appreciating something precious and fleeting. There were nights when rain returned, reminding them of the beginning. On one such night, Adam lay awake listening to the storm, but this time there was no fear. Instead, he turned toward Mr. Kareem and whispered, "Do you remember the first time we sat together like this?" The older man smiled in the darkness. "I remember thinking I should pull my hand away," he admitted. "But I didn't want to." Adam pressed closer. "I'm glad you didn't." The storm outside felt distant compared to the warmth beneath their shared blanket. Romance for them was also found in vulnerability. Mr. Kareem sometimes worried about becoming a burden as he aged further. One afternoon, after struggling with fatigue, he sat quietly, frustration visible in his eyes. Adam knelt in front of him and held both his hands. "Loving you is not a responsibility I carry," he said firmly. "It is a choice I make every day." The words carried weight. They weren't poetic for an audience, they were real. Mr. Kareem's expression softened, and he leaned forward, kissing Adam gently, slowly, gratefully. That kiss held gratitude, trust, and a silent promise. As their story continued spreading online, invitations arrived for interviews and collaborations. They accepted only a few, careful not to let public attention replace private connection. During one interview, the host asked, "What keeps your romance alive despite the age difference?" Adam glanced at Mr. Kareem before answering. "Listening," he said. Mr. Kareem added, "And choosing kindness even during disagreement." Their answers were simple, yet viewers found them profound because simplicity is often overlooked. Summer brought warmth that lingered late into the evenings. They began sitting on the rooftop after dinner, watching stars appear one by one. Adam would rest his head in Mr. Kareem's lap while the older man ran his fingers through his hair. Sometimes they spoke about dreams, traveling somewhere quiet by the sea, writing a book together about their journey, creating a safe space online for people in unconventional relationships. Other times, they said nothing at all. Silence between them was never awkward, it was full. One night under that wide sky, Adam asked a question that felt both romantic and brave. "If you had met me when you were my age, would you have loved me?" Mr. Kareem chuckled softly. "At 23, I was stubborn and afraid of feelings," he replied. "I might have run from you." Adam smiled. "Then I'm glad we met now." Mr. Kareem nodded. "So am I. Age has taught me not to run from what feels true." Their eyes met, and the look they shared carried decades of wisdom and youth combined. Autumn returned with cooler air and golden leaves. Adam noticed more gray in Mr. Kareem's hair, more pauses when climbing stairs. Instead of sadness, he felt deeper appreciation. Romance matured into devotion. He began leaving small handwritten notes on Mr. Kareem's bedside table, short messages like, "Thank you for choosing me," or, "Your smile is still my favorite view." Each note was kept carefully in a drawer. Mr. Kareem, in return, surprised Adam with stories he had never told anyone. Childhood memories, secret ambitions, regrets turned into lessons. Sharing those stories felt intimate, almost sacred. Their physical closeness remained tender and respectful. They understood that passion did not require urgency. Sometimes romance meant simply lying close, listening to each other breathe. Sometimes it meant slow kisses filled with unspoken reassurance. Every touch carried awareness, of time, of fragility, of gratitude. And that awareness made each moment richer rather than fearful. As years began gently adding themselves to their story, Adam realized something profound. Loving someone older had taught him to value presence more intensely. He no longer postponed affection or assumed endless tomorrows. If he felt gratitude, he expressed it. If he felt admiration, he voiced it. And Mr. Kareem, feeling cherished rather than pitted, stood taller despite the natural slowing of age. On the third anniversary of their stormy beginning, they returned to the park where they had once walked nervously holding hands in public. This time, they walked confidently. Some people recognized them, others didn't. It didn't matter. Adam stopped near a quiet bench and turned to Mr. Kareem. "You changed my life," he said simply. The older man shook his head gently. "We changed each other's." Then, in the soft glow of sunset, Adam leaned forward and kissed him, slowly, openly, without fear of watching eyes. Their love story was not built on fantasy. It was built on daily choices, honest conversations, shared laughter, and quiet nights. It was built on courage, not the loud kind, but the steady kind that shows up every morning. Romance lived in their home not because it was dramatic, but because it was intentional. And as long as storms came and seasons changed, as long as hands could reach for each other in the dark, their love continued, age acknowledged but never obeyed, difference present but never dominant. What remained strongest was the simple truth they had discovered together. Love does not count years, it counts heartbeats shared in sincerity. As time moved forward, their love did not lose its softness. Instead, it deepened into something richer, something that felt less like a spark and more like a steady flame. Adam began waking earlier than usual, just to watch Mr. Kareem sleep peacefully in the quiet blue light of dawn. There was something profoundly romantic about witnessing vulnerability without being asked to. The gentle rise and fall of his chest, the faint lines on his face that told stories of decades lived, Adam saw beauty in all of it. He would brush his fingers lightly over the older man's hand, careful not to wake him, silently promising to protect that peace for as long as he could. Mornings became sacred rituals. Adam would prepare tea exactly the way Mr. Kareem liked it, strong but not bitter, with a touch of cardamom. When Mr. Kareem entered the kitchen, slightly slower now but still dignified, he would find the cup already waiting. "You spoil me," he would say with a teasing smile. Adam would respond, "You deserve to be spoiled." It was in those small exchanges that romance thrived. Not in grand gestures for the world to see, but in thoughtful consistency. Each day began with appreciation, and that appreciation carried them through whatever challenges followed. Their conversations grew even more intimate as trust matured. One evening, while sitting close on the couch, Adam asked softly, "What scares you the most?" Mr. Kareem was quiet for a long moment. "Not death," he finally admitted, "but leaving you alone too soon." Adam's heart tightened, yet he did not pull away from the truth. Instead, he cupped Mr. Kareem's face gently and replied, "Loving you has already made me stronger than I was before. No matter what happens, you won't leave me empty. You've filled my life with more courage than I ever had." The honesty of that moment wrapped around them like warmth, turning fear into connection. Romance found new expressions in shared creativity. Adam began writing letters, not digital messages, but handwritten pages filled with reflections about their journey. He would leave them hidden inside books or under pillows for Mr. Kareem to discover. Each letter described something specific: the way his laughter still made Adam's heart race, the comfort of his embrace, the wisdom in his advice. Mr. Kareem read every word slowly, sometimes more than once. In response, he began recording voice notes, memories, blessings, small confessions of gratitude. Listening to those recordings late at night became one of Adam's favorite rituals. Their physical closeness remained tender and deeply respectful. Age had given Mr. Kareem a gentle awareness of pacing, and Adam embraced that rhythm without frustration. They learned to communicate through touch, fingers intertwined during evening walks, soft kisses pressed to temples before sleep, lingering embraces that said more than language ever could. Passion did not disappear. It transformed into something layered with care. Every intimate moment was guided by attentiveness, by the desire to make the other feel valued rather than rushed. One particularly quiet night, the electricity went out again, just as it had years before. Instead of fear, they both laughed softly at the memory. Adam lit candles and placed them around the room, recreating that first stormy atmosphere. But this time, there was no uncertainty. Mr. Kareem reached for Adam's hand without hesitation. "Strange how darkness once made us nervous," he murmured. Adam squeezed his fingers gently. "Now it just makes everything feel closer." They sat on the bed, candlelight flickering across their faces, and shared slow, affectionate kisses that felt like gratitude for the journey they had traveled together. As seasons shifted once more, Adam began thinking about permanence, not in terms of years, but in terms of legacy. He wanted their love to mean something beyond them. Together, they decided to create a small online space dedicated to honest discussions about unconventional relationships. They called it Shared Seasons. There were no dramatic titles or exaggerated promises, just heartfelt reflections. Couples from different backgrounds began writing to them, expressing relief at seeing love portrayed with maturity and respect. Their story continued inspiring others, but they remained careful to protect their private world from becoming performance. Health became a more frequent topic as Mr. Kareem's age progressed. Routine checkups sometimes brought minor concerns, and Adam accompanied him to every appointment. Sitting in waiting rooms, Adam would hold his hand, tracing small circles with his thumb to ease tension. "You don't have to look so serious," Mr. Kareem would tease gently. Adam would smile, though worry sometimes flickered behind his eyes. Love, he had learned, meant standing beside someone not only during celebration but also during vulnerability. And he stood firmly. Romance did not fade under the weight of reality. It adapted beautifully. On days when energy was low, Adam would read aloud from novels while Mr. Kareem rested his head against his shoulder. On better days, they cooked together, laughing over small mistakes. Sometimes, they would sit by the window watching rain, hands linked, sharing memories of how it all began. That first touch during a storm had grown into a lifetime of touches, each one layered with history. One afternoon, as golden sunlight poured through the living room, Adam found himself overwhelmed by affection. Without overthinking, he knelt in front of Mr. Kareem and said, "I choose you. Every day. In every version of the future." There was no ring, no formal proposal, just sincerity. Mr. Kareem's eyes filled with quiet emotion. "And I choose you," he responded. "Not because I need saving from loneliness, but because loving you feels like the most honest thing I have ever done." They embraced slowly, understanding that commitment did not require ceremony to be real. Their love story continued unfolding not in dramatic chapters, but in steady devotion. Adam matured through loving someone older, learning patience, empathy, and presence. Mr. Kareem rediscovered youth not through denial of age, but through emotional openness. They balanced each other, one bringing energy, the other grounding it with wisdom. The difference in years became less noticeable over time, replaced by shared experiences that blurred the boundaries of age. On quiet evenings, Adam would sometimes whisper, "If I could relive any moment, it would still be that first night in the storm." Mr. Kareem would smile gently. "I would relive this one," he would reply, pulling Adam closer, because for him, every present moment held its own miracle. And so their romance continued, woven through ordinary days, strengthened by honesty, softened by gratitude. They understood that love is not measured by how loudly it announces itself, but by how faithfully it remains. In a small house once filled with silence, two hearts had learned to beat in harmony. And as long as there were mornings with tea, evenings with candlelight, and hands reaching for each other in the dark,